Welcome back, dear students. Today we will continue with the long walk to freedom. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with the sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned peoples of their own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhuman societies the world has ever known. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century and my own eighth decade as a man, that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples, regardless of the color of their skin. See, here you have seen a word Anglo-Boer War. Anglo-Boer War. It is also called the Second Boer War or the South African War or simply as the Boer War. This is actually, these Boer communities are the member of Dutch population who settled in South Africa in the late 17th century. So, Boer means the people from Dutch who settled in South Africa in the late 19th century, and the Boers' present day descendants are the African race itself. Okay, so it is basically an African farmer. Boer means an African farmer and who came from the Dutch. So this Anglo-Boer War, it happened in 1899. It started in 1899, 11th October 1899, and it was till 31st May 1902. So this is also called as the Second Boer War or the Boer War or the Anglo-Boer War or the South African War. And this war was fought between the British Empire and the two independent Boer states, that is the South African Republic and the Orange Free State, over the empire's influence in South Africa. So Boer means the people who came from Dutch and they settled in South Africa, and the Anglo-Boer War was from 11th October 1899 to 31st May 1902, and this war was between the British Empire and the two independent Boer states, the South African Republic and the Orange Free State. So here Nelson Mandela says that on the day of the inaugural ceremony, the author was remembering the days of past when his whole system of apartheid emerged. He is just remembering the time when the system of apartheid emerged and it resulted in inequality and inferior treatment of dark-skinned people. And they were deprived of their basic fundamental rights, and as a result, one of the world's most brutal and inhuman society was born. And this began even before he was born. This system created an atmosphere of extreme cruelty and injustice for a particular part of the community. And now, when he is in his eighth decade as a man, he, along with countless others, have changed this entire system that treats humans as humans irrespective of their color, caste, gender, or age. So here you should know what you mean by Anglo-Boer War, and you can see the mistake that peoples. 3 times you can see the word peoples. Actually, we are not using peoples, we are using people. That is the correct pronunciation, correct way. But here he is doing it purposefully in order to give more importance to the tortures that was once dealt with the South Africans. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people, people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifice has wrought. So here Mandela says that this equal and free country was a result of sacrifices of countless other men and women who had fought all their lives for this day. And other wishes if he could thank them all, but unfortunately they didn't live to see the result of their courage. And Nelson Mandela gathered his courage and power from all these people and thus wishes to make them proud. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Tambos, the Water Sizzlers, the Chief Luthless, the Yusuf Dadus, the Brumfishers, the Robert Zubukivs of our time. Men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity that their like may never be known again. Perhaps it requires such depths of oppression to create such heights of character. My country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil. But I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. Here, Nelson Mandela mentions about some famous personalities in South Africa. Like in India, we are having Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, Nehru, likewise. So here, purposefully, he has used the article the in front of the proper noun just to give importance to those personalities. Okay, because they are unique. That is why he is using the article the in front of proper names of people. He is using the article the just to give importance to their personalities. So here he says that the oppression policy scared many people and it will take a long time for them to move on. And the author mentioned that his hard time had its negative impacts, but it also exposed a lot of strong and courageous men who stood up and raised their voice. And these courageous men include the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sizzlers, Chief Luthless, Yusuf Dadus, Bram Fishers, and Robert Zubukivs. These are that courageous men. And thus it required that level of unjust treatment to produce such great heroes. And South Africa, he says, is rich in minerals and gems, but its greatest strength lies in its people. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defines the imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not the one who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So here we can see a word comrades. Comrades means a colleague or a fellow member of an organization. And resilience means the ability to deal with any kind of hardship and recover from its effects. Okay. So Nelson Mandela gained his strength to stand against the wrong from all the great nationalists he mentioned above, and who have even risked their lives for freedom and tolerated ill treatment but never stopped fighting. He learned that courage didn't mean the absence of fear, but the ability to overcome fear. The man who overcomes his fear is called a brave personality. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I could see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. That is a very powerful sentence. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. This is the favorite line in my perspective. So, here Nelson Mandela says that one is taught by its society to hate humans because of their color, skin, age, gender, and religion. And no one is born with hatred. The author's idea is that if people can be taught hatred, they can also be taught love and brotherhood. And in their most testing times in prison, when they were being treated brutally, Mandela would see a pinch of humanity and kindness in one of the guards that was enough to keep him going. He believes that goodness in human beings can be suppressed but never eliminated. In life, every man has two obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children. And he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. In a civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. Here, according to the author, every human being has its responsibility towards the family and as well as the society, isn't it? And generally, under normal circumstances, a person can maintain the balance between the two. But in countries like South Africa, it was never so easy. When a person of color means a black person, a black, okay? When a person of color would come up for his society, what will happen to him? He would be arrested and taken away from his family and thus keeping them from fulfilling both responsibilities. And in the beginning, Mandela did not put his people over his family, but it was only later when he realized that in order to be there for his people, he was compromising his duties towards his own family. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, and when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I chose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I earned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family. The freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Here you can see the word malice. Malice means it is a maize plant. Okay. And illusion means a false idea or belief. Here, the author Mandela did not have the plan to stand against the apartheid system during his early lifetime. He lived his childhood like any other normal child in South Africa. He only had to follow the rules set up by his father or the customs of his tribe. And as soon as he grew up and began to learn the facts as to how people of color are treated, he decided to stand against it. He had this urge for freedom from inside, earlier just for himself, that is, just for staying out at night, reading whatever he wanted to read and all. And later for having a basic life, not just for himself, but for everyone. And while he was in Johannesburg, they had to struggle for having a peaceful marriage, family, and basic amenities which everyone has access to where law and order exist. So this is all for the day. The remaining portions will be dealt in the next session. Thank you for watching.